All right. Peace, everybody. What's going on? This your girl Tiffany coming through live in effect. And so today I'm going to be doing the topic about Republic of New Afrika. All right, so that's what I'm gonna get into today. So yeah, so there's many organization that has um have not been recognized or have not been talked about in the mainstream as much. Now, the main ones that we're familiar with, we're talking about the Black Panther Party. That's the main one we're familiar with, and SNCC, and also SCLC, which stands for Student Christian Leadership, with Southern Christian Leadership Conference, or NAACP. Those are the organizations we're familiar with. But what we gotta know is there has been plenty of Black organization that has really came around. All right, and especially the ones that deal with the concept of liberation and upliftment, empowerment, Black Power movement, and all that good stuff. So it's a list of them that I can go on about. But the one that I really want to get in the focus today is the Republic of New Afrika. All right. So I'm going to read on the information and let's just take it from there. So the Republic of New Afrika was founded in 1968 as the Republic of New Afrika is a Black nationalist organization, Black separatist movement in the United States, popularized by Black freedom fighter groups. Okay. The larger New Africa movement in particular has three goals: creation of an independent Black majority country situated in the southern eastern United States in the heart of an area of Black majority population; payment by the federal government of several $billions in reparation to African American descendants of slaves for the damages inflicted on Africans and their descendants by chattel enslavement, Jim Crow laws, and modern day form of racism. Okay. Referendum of all African Americans to determine their desire for citizenship. Movement leaders say their ancestors were not offered a choice in this matter after emancipation in 1865, following the American Civil War. Peace, CJ. How you doing? All right. So it says the vision for this country was first promulgated by the Malcolm X Society on March 31st, 1968, at a Black government conference held in Detroit, Michigan. The conference participants drafted a constitution and declaration of independence, and they identified 5 southern states: Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina as subjugated national territory. All right, so this organization was founded in the heart of Detroit, Michigan, and it was founded by the brother named Arami how do you say his name? Hold on. It's Amari Abadale. Amari Abadale was one of the founders of the organization. And so they wanted to create an ideal that was really focused on Black nationalism and that centered around separate society communities and something that would be more autonomous for African Americans. That was their primary focus. But as we all know, well, you know how that goes. Their organization comes after, and then other organizations come about. But the main focus is to bring about some form of liberation for African Americans and to fight for reparation. So as you can see, reparation was always the main topic of the conversation. All right, before all the other groups came out, people were still talking about reparation. So as you can see, no matter what organization, no matter what group, the topic in the conversation of reparation will always be brought up, regardless. So let's go ahead and continue. Now let's look at the history. The Black Government Conference was convened by the Malcolm X Society and the Group on Advanced Leadership, two influential Detroit-based Black organizations with broad followings. The attendees produced a Declaration of Independence signed by 100 conferees out of approximately 500, a constitution and the framework for a provisional government. Robert F. Williams, a controversial human rights advocate then living in exile in China, was chosen as the first president of the provisional government. Attorney Milton Henry, a student of Malcolm X's teachings, was named first vice president, and Betty Shabazz, widow of Malcolm X, served as second vice president. And it goes on to say, provisional government of the Republic of New Afrika advocates a form of cooperative economics through the building of new communities named after Ujamaa concept promoted by Tanzanian President Julius Nyerere. It proposed militant self-defense through the building of local peoples, militias, and standing army to be called the Black Legion. The building a racially based organization to champion the right of self-determination for people of Black African descent. The organization was involved in numerous controversial issues. For example, it attempted to assist Ocean Hill, Brownsville area in Brooklyn to secede from the United States during the 1968 conflict over control of public schools. Additionally, it was involved with shootouts at New Bethel Baptist Church in 1969 during the 1-year anniversary of the founding, and another in Jackson, Mississippi in 1971. It had announced that the capital of the Republic would be Hinds County, Mississippi, located on a member's farm. In confirmation, law enforcement officials were killed and injured. Organization members were prosecuted for the crime. All right, so they pretty much had the similar element like the Black Liberation Army and the Black Panthers Party. So, like how the Black Panthers were targeted, and those in the Liberation Army, those in the Republic of New Afrika was also targeted and being watched by the government as well. All right, so it says here, notable members. Betty Shabazz, widows of Malcolm X, was elected as second vice president of the first administration in 1968, working alongside Williams and Henry. Chokwe Lumumba, formerly Edwin Finley Talaferro of Detroit, was elected as second vice president in 1971. He later became an attorney working in Michigan and Mississippi in public defense. After settling in Jackson, Mississippi, he was elected to the city council there. He was elected as mayor in 2013. Died in office in February of 2014 of natural causes. Now, he was one of the members of the new Republic of New Afrika. Grassroots was a mayor in Jackson, Mississippi. Queen Mother Moore was a founding member of the Republic of New Afrika. She helped found the group and helped out in the group as much as she could. Milton Henry, also known as Brother Gadi Abadale, was one of the primary founders of the Republic of New Afrika. He was elected as the first vice president of the founding administration in 1968. Robert F. Williams was a Black nationalist, elected as the first president of the Republic of New Afrika, and Sanyika Shakur, former 8-Tray Crips gang leader, currently incarcerated at Santilla State Prison. So the current member right now is incarcerated, and that's Sanyika Shakur. who was a former gang member, a Crip, a A-Tray Crip, now incarcerated. All right, so anyways, there's publication down here if you want to learn more about it, as you can see. All right, and there's one about Back to Africa movement, okay? So let's talk about the founder for a moment. Who was the founder of this organization? Let's go ahead and look at the founder real quick. So one of the founder is Amari Abadale, who was a Black nationalist, advocate for reparation, and president of Republic of New Afrika. He was born in Philadelphia as a young man, founded a civil rights organization there with his brother Milton. The two later moved to Detroit. After the murder of Malcolm X, they helped form the Malcolm X Society, and dissatisfied by the progress achieved by nonviolent approaches to civil rights movement, came to embrace Black separatism. All right, so Richard and Milton adopted the African name Amari and Gadi Abadele in 1968 with others, founded the Republic of New Afrika. At the meeting founding the group, they formed a government in exile. Abadele was designated the information minister and soon published a pamphlet, War in America. The organization's stated aim was to carve Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, and South Carolina out of the United States and establish an independent Black nation from these 5 states. The Republic of New Afrika also formed a paramilitary union, the Black Legion, in 1969. The union was involved in a gun battle in Detroit that killed a police officer. All right, so let's look up what the paramilitary is. All right, so a paramilitary organization is a semi-militarized force whose organizational structure, tactics, training, and subculture and often function are similar to those of a professional military, but is not formally part of a country's armed forces. Okay. So basically, they were more of what's the term? I can't even think of the term right now, but they were a militant group, basically. That's what they were, militant. All right, so let's continue. The Black Legion. In 1969, the unit was involved in a gun battle in Detroit that killed a police officer. Amari split from his brother, who came to reject militancy in 1970 and was also elected president of the Republic of New Afrika. Abadele and the group moved its headquarters to a house in Jackson, Mississippi, despite failing to purchase an 18-acre plot. Abadele and 10 others, the RNA 11, were arrested and charged in the wake of a joint police/FBI raid on the house in 1971. The raid culminated in a gunfight that killed an officer. It was later determined that Abadele was not at the scene and murder charges against him were dropped. However, he was convicted of conspiracy to assault a federal agent and was sentenced to 12 years in prison, of which he served 5. Amnesty International described him as a political prisoner, and the group claimed that it had been targeted by FBI because of its political views. All right. FBI documentation that was later released confirmed that the agency was following the group. The internal FBI memos suggest that Abadele be kept off the streets and that he was one of the country's most violent, prone Black extremists. After prison, Abadele went on to earn a PhD in political science from Temple University. He became a professor at Prairie View A&M University. His stepson is Ivory A. Tolson. All right. So, and unfortunately, he had passed away on January 18th of 2010. As of today, As of today, the organization is still around. They're still in operation. So let me show you guys a picture of this is Amari Abadale. So that's the brother that was the founder of the Republic of New Afrika organization. That's him. Let's see. And here's one of their flyers. All right, it says, now we have a nation, the Republic of New Afrika government meeting, People-Centered Council report. The PCC makes national policy for the Republic of New Afrika. The PCC met November 25th to the 28th in New Orleans. What did they decide? Find out. All right, it says Sunday, December 19th, 3:00 p.m., Black Conscious Library. All citizens Black are invited to come and participate, support your government. All right, so that was the early flyer. So here's more information. Actually, someone wrote a dissertation on this topic. So let's see what they had to say. As a matter of fact, let me tell you guys what the dissertation, the name of it first. It's called Free the Land, Exploring the Spatial and Political Legacy of the Republic of New Afrika in Detroit and Jackson. Willie Jamal Wright, a dissertation submitted to the faculty at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in partial fulfillment of the requirements for a degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the Department of Geography. All right. So this was written in 2017. So it ain't been that long ago. Let's see what this person wrote so far. All right, so he goes into the history of Republic of New Afrika. It says a history of the provisional government of the Republic of New Afrika is incomplete without reference to historical interpolations of race, class struggle, and spatial segregation in Detroit, how they relate to the political development of the PGRNA's founders and the development of the nation itself. In this chapter, I address the historical and multispatial development of the RNA in Detroit and Jackson through a working history of repression and resistance in Detroit, Michigan. I preference the history of the RNA with commentaries on the lived realities of Black workers and communities in Detroit, Michigan prior to the formation of the PGRNA and the migration of new African citizens to the parts throughout the Deep South in particular. All right. So he goes on to say, since its days as the arsenal of democracy to the present, Detroit has been a city fraught with contradiction, challenges that often emerge in the form of struggles for workers' rights against the Big Three: Ford Motor Company, General Motors, and Chrysler Motor Company. Particularly Henry Ford, though lauded for introducing the assembly line to the automobile production and paying laborers $5 a day, which they ain't no money. Henry Ford was also a known enemy of unions and collective bargains, not to mention an anti-Semite. To stem the populist surge of unionized workers lobbying for higher wages and better working conditions, Henry Ford would hire goons, his own police force, to attack workers on strike and monitor the habits of laborers while at work and at home. Despite the communalities that existed between the struggles of auto workers, white factory workers in large part remained averse to integrating local unions. All right, so of course we all know about, well, many of us don't know about the story of Detroit. Detroit happens to be a very unique city, like Chicago, but Detroit has suffered a lot of poverty, and so many auto industry have left the city to go elsewhere. So ever since then, the economy been declining and declining and declining ever since. And it wasn't too long ago that Detroit was in debt. Yes, the city of Detroit was in debt about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So there's a lot of impoverished communities up there in Detroit. And I have family members that's from the area. My mother was from Detroit, my sister, and then I have other relatives. So there has been so many things taking place, like riots. Of course, Malcolm grew up there, and there's a lot of strong Black unity, Black organization started in the area. So yeah, Detroit has a history. It has a long-standing history, and it's not far from Canada because it's like 45 minutes away from Canada if you go over the bridge. So yeah, Detroit has a great, interesting history. Somebody asked me, is that the word you were looking for? No, I was looking for the word military, but I already found the word, not militia, but the paramilitary. All right. Anyways, let me get down to. Let me see what else I can find. So this person is talking about Detroit, etc., etc., etc. Okay, let's go down. All right, so okay. It says, for many, the eruption of Detroit, a city once considered a model of economic development and social mobility, was nothing less than startling. In the aftermath of the rebellion, Arthur Connor, governor of Illinois, chaired the Coroner Commission, a group responsible for investigating the cause of civil uprising that rocked 8 of America's cities during the summer of 1967. A section of Coroner Commission report entitled "Why Did It Happen?" lists a number of factors believed to have contributed to the 1967 rebellions. All right, because you guys know that there was a racial rebellion that took place in Detroit. As a matter of fact, there was a movie that came out about a year or two ago. It was called Detroit, or 1967 Detroit, or something like that. That was the name of the movie. I never saw it, but I saw previews of it. But it goes into the whole racial riots that happened and whatnot. Okay, so all right, so let's get down to here finally. The birth of a new African nation. The PGRNA formed not quite a year following the Detroit Rebellion of 1967. Though influenced by this time of turmoil, one must not underscore the impact that Malcolm X had on Gadi and Amari Abadale political development and the rebirth of Black nationalism in the 1960s as a whole. Black nationalism, not to be confused with the static Western geopolitical notion of nationalism tied to the nation states and bound territory, has undergone numerous iterations from the moment enslaved Africans set foot on the shores of America. An umbrella term for Black strivings for self-determination, Black nationalism included maroon communities, Marcus Garvey's Back to Africa campaign, and its earliest iteration, the Black Panthers Party, demands for Black power and intercommunalism. All right. And then goes on to talk about how Malcolm X brought a Black nationalist geopolitical imaginary and analysis to the Black masses of the United States by linking the struggle for freedom and equality in the United States to the Black this diaspora. It was his position that Blacks in America would never experience freedom without the liberation of colonized African nations. The influence on Malcolm X is articulated in an edition of the periodical Right On. A caption reads, Malcolm X's monumental contribution to Black America began where he gave Black people correct direction by instilling the seeds of revolutionary nationalism in the minds of the people. Brother Malcolm X made Black people aware of unity, self-defense, and their common destiny. All right, so good evening, Brother Bakari. How you doing? Peace, Brother Bakari. So, of course, Malcolm was a very big influence in the late 60s, okay? Because Malcolm talked a lot about self-defense, whereas Dr. King was more so focused on nonviolence and protests and the marching and whatnot. But Malcolm believed that self-defense was necessary, all right? And of course, the fact that he was in the Nation of Islam, they taught self-defense, and also they had their own little militia group called the Fruit of Islam, right? So their own security team and whatnot. And that's what Malcolm believed, and he carried on with that philosophy. So many people were so influenced by his speech, which is why you had different groups like the Black Liberation Army, the Black Panther Party, and of course the New Republic of Afrika. They were all influenced by Malcolm. So because he taught that, they carry on their ideologies and they incorporated movements that was geared towards self-defense and protecting the African American community. Now, everybody did not operate on the same agenda. You had those who had their own personal reasons why they joined. Some people had motives, ulterior motives at that. There were those who wanted to just pretty much gain power. So it was always some conflicts taking place. But see, both Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X play a major role in the influences of these movements, because Marcus Garvey started his own movement, right? The UNIA, right, which is the Universal Negro Improvement Association. So that was one of the first concept of Pan-Africanism, and that was around the 30s and the 40s. That was the main basic. That was the main foundation. But prior to that, basically Marcus Garvey made Pan-Africanism more popular. Let's put it like that. But prior to that, Pan-Africanism was already at its formation in the 1900s with W.E.B. Du Bois, Martin Delany, Alexander Crummell, and so many others. Then not to mention, you also had brother, what's his name? I just had his name in the top of my head. Hold on, give me a second. Okay. All right, and you also had Edward Wilmot Blyden, who was a big Pan-Africanist at that time period. So he was so Pan-African to where he even encouraged African Americans to study more about West African history and study Islam. Now, this is a man that was a Christian, but he studied a lot about West Africa and studied about Hebrew and other religion in Egypt. But he said, you know what, the main focus for African Americans is to study about Islam and study about West Africa, study about their ancestor culture. Now that's just pretty unique and that's pretty interesting. So, but at the end of the day, a lot of these brothers and sisters out here, they made their contribution to the ideology of Pan-Africanism by incorporating philosophies, African philosophies, and also bringing it into the Western world. Also, if you look at Malafi Asante was one that pretty much taught the ideology of Afrocentrism, right? So basically, you're dealing with African philosophy and African psychology in the Western worldview in the African diaspora. So, yep. Let me just go ahead and continue on what else I can read on, and from there. All right, so it says the Abadale brothers convened a Black governmental conference held jointly at Wayne State University and the 50 Grand Hotel. In attendance were noted Black scholars, artists, and revolutionaries from throughout the United States, to include Maulana Karenga, Amiri Bakara, Queen Mother Aduli Moore, Nana Asajami Adunfumi, something like that. I don't know how you say that name. A representative from the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, Lawrence Guyot, and others. By the end of the gathering, the over 500 attendees had come to a consensus. Black people in America were a nation and as such were deserving of sovereignty and national territory. The PGRNA was not a reality, a nation by and for New Africans. Prior to this meeting, the Abadale brothers were instrumental in organizing and educating Detroit's Black resident as a columnist for the Michigan Chronicle, Detroit's Black newspaper. The Michigan Chronicle addressed citywide, national, and international news impacting Blacks in the diaspora. All right. The paper did not shy from political topics, many of which would have been considered un-American. For instance, when newly formed Asian, South Asian, and African nations met at Bandung Conference in Bandung, Indonesia, April 18 to the 25th, 1955, the Michigan Chronicle sent a correspondent to report the real story of the Asian African Conference. Transcending both geopolitical and gender boundaries, the Michigan Chronicle dispatched Ethel Payne, a well-respected journalist who had interviewed President Dwight D. Eisenhower and Harry S. Truman concerning her role in the East. The Michigan Chronicle stated, Ms. Payne will also analyze and interpret the meaning of the conference and the rise power of the colored world. Amari Abadale was a frequent contributor to the Michigan Chronicle, writing then as Richard Henry. Amari penned columns on housing and school segregation. Via columns in Michigan Chronicle, the Henry brothers spoke to the immediate needs of Black Detroiters. Therefore, when Abadale's brothers convened the Black Governmental Conference, residents of Detroit responded in kind. All right, so I'm not gonna go through all the dissertation, but this is the dissertation that was written. So anytime somebody writes a dissertation, that basically means that they're going for the PhD. So in order to have a PhD or a doctoral degree, wherever your field of study is or whatever your major is, you have to always write a dissertation. That's very important. If you don't write a dissertation, you're not gonna earn your degree. You're not going to earn your doctorate. So again, this was written at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in 2017 by Willie Jamal Wright. Okay. And it says the list of people that approved it. All right. So a dissertation is like writing a book almost. As you can see, the way it was formatted. It's formatted as if this person wrote a book. Oh, I forgot to read this. I'm going to read this part right here. All right. So the way the person wrote it, he wrote it in the form of a book. Right. So that's the way they want you to write it. If you're trying to go for a PhD, you have to write it in that format. All right. So it's like some of them decide to put out publish a book, and then there's those who just write dissertation. All right. So let's go ahead and let's read this. It's called For My People. For my people everywhere singing their slave songs repeatedly, their dirges and their ditties and their blues and jubilees, praying their prayers nightly to an unknown God, bending their knee humbly to an unseen power. For my people lending their strength to the years, to the gone years and now years and the maybe years, washing iron, cooking, scrubbing, sewing, mending, hoeing, piling, digging, planting, punning, patching, dragging, alone, never gaining, never weeping, never knowing, never understanding. For my playmates in the clay and dust and sand of Alabama backyards, playing, baptizing, preaching, and doctor, and jail, and soldier, and school, and mama, and cooking, and playhouse, and concert, and store, and hair, and Miss Chubby and company. For the cramped, bewildered years when we went years we went to school to learn, to know the reasons why, the answers to, and the people who, and the places where, and the days when, in memory of the bitter hours when we discovered we were black and poor and small and different, and nobody cared, nobody wondered, nobody understood. For the boys and girls who grew in spite of these things, to be men, to be man and woman, to laugh and dance and sing and play and drink their wine and religion and success, to marry their playmates and bear children and then die of consumption, anemia, and lynching. For my people thronging 47th Street in Chicago, Lenox Avenue in New York, and Rapport Street in New Orleans, lost, disheartened, dispossessed, and happy people filling the cabarets, taverns, and other people's pocket, and needing bread and shoes and milk and land and money and something all our own. For my people walking blindly, spreading joy, losing time, being lazy, sleeping when hungry, shouting when burdened, drinking when hopeless, tied and shackled and tangled among ourselves by the unseen creatures who tower over us ominously and laugh. For my people blundering and gawping and floundering in the dark of churches and schools and clubs and societies, associations and councils and committees and conventions, distressed and disturbed and deceived and devoured by money hungry, glory craving leeches, preyed on by facile force of state, and fade and novelty by false prophet and holy believer. For my people standing, staring, trying to fashion a better way, from confusion, from hypocrisy and misunderstanding, trying to fashion a world that will hold all the people, all the faces, all the Adams and Eves, and their countless generation. Let a new earth rise. Let another world be born. Let a bloody peace be written in the sky. Let a second generation full of courage issues forth. Let a people loving freedom come to growth. Let a beauty full of healing and a strength of final clenching be the pulsing in our spirits and our blood. Let the martial song be written. Let the dirges disappear. Let a race of women Amen. Now rise and take control. This came from Margaret Walker. That's a great poem right there. Anyways, you guys, that's all for tonight. And I thank you all for tuning in, watching. So with that being said, this is your girl Tiffany, and I am going to log off. So please take it easy on yourself and please be safe. And until next time, I will reconnect with you all later. So peace and power elevation be to all of you. And that's that. Y'all have a good one. All right now.